Religion is a broad-ranging word that means many things. Mostly it is a belief in the supernatural, which, depending on the philosophy and religion, can create some very weird outcomes. Some can inspire action, while some can inspire fatalism and either inaction, apathy, or maintain policies because that's just the way it is, and things will never change or get better. An example of this is the Hindu belief in reincarnation. The caste system was the way it was because the lower caste people had been bad people in their past life, so they need to serve the higher caste and suffer for their past sins so they can be reborn in a higher caste. This belief made any attempt to fight poverty and inequality tepid at best, and lower castes are facing an uphill battle similar to the struggles African Americans have. The Buddha came up with a way to break this cycle, but that involves not being attached to this life, and the Theravada and Tibetan branches ended up locking themselves away from the commenters, and few attempts at fixing suffering, as reality was suffering, so there was nothing they could do. Taoism also took quite a similar mindset. It's quite similar to many people's views of bullying or rape. It's going to happen, so just toughen up and suck it up, and be more aware of your surroundings and avoid situations that could get you raped. Trying to change things isn't going to do anything. Learning to be more tough is essential, as well as learning to do all you can to increase your own safety. But once you have come through the needed toughening process and increasing your defenses, you should use that experience to try and make the need for toughening and avoidance less, even just a little, for the following generation. It is the difference between naivety and cynicism, or even worse, joining the bullies. Change is slow, and there are better scientific ways to reduce it. Pushing to change things as hard as you can will painstakingly slowly change things. Many are so crushed by their toughening up experience, and change moves at such a glacial pace, they don't believe anything they can do changes anything. Many branches of Christianity are the same way. They have a belief that the world is going to keep getting worse and worse until it gets so bad that Jesus comes back. Climate change? So what? Jesus will come back soon. The best we can do is give money to charity or tithe because Jesus clearly states that the poor will always be with you. Islam does the same thing with tithes, but they are often just waiting for the day of judgment. People viewed Jim Crow and segregation as something that just couldn't be changed, and preachers in the South were very nervous to back Dr. King. It took generations of hard work to lift Jim Crow, using many methods, and it was finally lifted in the South. Oscar Wilde viewed charity as a feel-good mostly for the wealthy, so they felt like they were doing something as opposed to fixing the actual structural problems. Africa for many decades was viewed as nothing but a charity case, a white man's burden, and we would interfere with their trade or commerce through blindly giving things they didn't need like food or clothing, which they could easily make for themselves, until our charity items that made us feel good wrecked the market prices, putting farmers and clothing manufacturers out of business while treating bribery and corruption in government as just their culture, causing loans and foreign aid to be terribly wasted, partially brought about by our fatalistic view about poverty. Religion in many cases often held people back on knowledge. Anytime someone said, "only God knows," they immediately stopped looking for answers. Neil deGrasse Tyson discussed a story about Newton basically inventing calculus and classical physics and explaining so much about planetary orbit, but an area puzzled him and said, "only God knows." As it turns out, the answer was rather easy, especially for a man of his intellect, but because of his faith, he gave up and stopped looking. There are many people from many different religions who are driven by their beliefs to fight poverty and keep questioning and be the change they wish to see in the world, but sadly in the majority of people it creates and prepares a fatalism of the status quo, preventing any real change and discovery from occurring. Hey there, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw from my channel, please subscribe and donate to my Patreon. If you have evidence to counter what I say, please provide it. If you would like to see what I was doing with this channel 4 years ago, please click the links on the screen. Thank you so much.